So, one of the most common reasons that people come to see psychologists is that we are doing mental health wrong. In our current society, we take a very medical model, which means that we basically wait until things fall apart before we get people to seek support. In our DSM-5, which is our Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, it literally says that you don't qualify for a mental health disorder until there is significant functional impairment in your day-to-day life. For some people, if they don't have a diagnosis, they can't get their mental health care plans, which gives them subsidized sessions. We literally don't get access to support until it gets so bad that it's significantly interfering with your life. We are doing mental health care so wrong. And so if there is one thing I want you to take away from this video or take away from my channel, it's that we need to shift away from this model where we wait until things go really south before we start putting in support into a preventative model of mental health where we are working on things every day and we don't get to that point where things are significantly functionally impairing our lives. And the key to that is self-care. Oh, I just wanted to mention, watch until the very end of the video to learn how you could be part of another Psych Diaries video in the future. Okay, bye. Self-care is anything that supports and nourishes your own needs. Self-care is not selfish, and I know I just said it's about supporting your own needs, but the idea is that we cannot support anyone else or our community until we first support ourselves. And you probably hear this a lot when you're traveling, this idea that if the air mask comes down in an emergency, always put it on yourself before you support other people. As a psychologist, if I am burnt out, if I am depressed, if I am highly stressed and anxious, I cannot have the capacity to make space and support someone else. There is no objective self-care activity. It can often look completely different for different people. Sometimes self-care can be taking a nap and just taking half a day off. Sometimes self-care is pushing yourself out of bed to take that shower, to go for that run, to go to F45. Sometimes self-care is curling up on the couch with a bag of chips and Netflix and just doing nothing for 2 hours. Declining a party invitation. Or it could be pushing yourself to go out and meet a friend for coffee. It could look like cutting out that toxic friend, or it could be finally reaching out to a psychologist for the first time. As you can see from all those examples, there is no objective self-care activity. The key to it really is balance. If you're feeling down, maybe it's to sit in that feeling and to make space for it. And then it's to find something energizing to do, to go out, to activate your body, to do something. If you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed and frazzled, maybe it's to stop, to take a pause, to step back, and to just chill out, to relax, to center yourself back in. So actually the first step in self-care is actually not to do anything. It's just to check in with yourself and ask, what do I need right now? The most important part of self-care is just that we be flexible with it, that we are attuned with what our body needs. And I know that's hard because sometimes we don't know what our body needs. We just feel a bit like out of it. We know something's not going right, but we're not really sure what it is. First takeaway is to have this active checking in process with yourself. Just pausing, a couple times throughout the day and just taking that 30 seconds and going, whew, what do I feel right now? What do I need today? What looks like self-care one day could be the very opposite on another day. So what do I mean when I say that you're doing self-care wrong? And I readily admit that I have also been doing self-care wrong for most of my life. And the reason for that is that we prioritize everything else before self-care. We put in our work commitments, we put in our study commitments, we put in our admin time, and then in the little slots in between, we kind of just assume that self-care is going to happen. And usually it's an afterthought. Usually it's not even that dedicated as self-care. After a long day at work, we might be so exhausted that we kind of collapse on the couch and we can't do anything else and we're scrolling on social media. Self-care needs to be the very first thing that we put in our calendars before we slot in work, study, family, socializing, the gym, everything else around it. Because without self-care, we are going to burn ourselves out. I think we all recognize that things just seem to be getting faster and faster. We get more emails in our inbox every day. We get more messages. We're able to access more things, but it's overwhelming. Our brains aren't built to process so much information every day. So we need to actually put in the self-care beforehand so we have the resources, we have the capacity, we have the resilience to take on all the other stuff. And we know that good self-care leads to increased motivation, our mood lifts, our memory improves, our general ability to approach life gets better if we have good self-care. And self-care doesn't have to be complicated, expensive, or take a long time. In fact, the very best self-care is just getting a really good night's sleep. I don't know if you remember the last time that you woke up feeling refreshed, feeling energized, you didn't feel like you needed to crash halfway through the day. Most of us have gotten to a point where there's so much stuff that we cram in that we're not even giving our bodies adequate time to rest. And I'm still working on this. I definitely have a habit of overloading my schedule and being really ambitious with all the stuff that I can jam into it. And I literally had this experience last week, which is why I'm making this video. I felt burnt out and overwhelmed to the point where I ended up filming a video like just before I went to work one day, and I was posting it on my Insta stories. And I realized that for a while I had been working so hard that I'd actually forgotten this practice of prioritizing my self-care. It took me about a week and a half, 2 weeks to actually do a reset and reprioritize my self-care. And for that week and a half, 2 weeks, I was stressed, I was tired, I wasn't getting enough sleep, and it meant that in some ways I didn't have my full capacity to bring to my clients, to bring to my family, to bring to my friends. The importance of self-care cannot be overstated. For me personally, actually I have a video on my self-care routine. Limiting my social media, it's having days where I actually block social media on my phone, it's getting enough sleep, getting into bed and spending half an hour reading. I keep my phone outside of my room so that I can read and have this peaceful space before I go to bed. It's to not pack my clinic nights with events so that I know that as soon as I get home, I can do whatever I want based on my needs for that day. It could mean that I want to go dancing that night, or it could mean that I want to do absolutely nothing and get takeout. It means scheduling fun things in my calendar so I always have things that I'm looking forward to. Making time to visit my family at least once a week. It means making time to connect with my really close friends regularly. It also means that I get myself up and force myself to go work out even when I don't feel like it. Oh, it's starting to pour, so if you can hear the rain outside, sorry. My mission is that we start thinking about mental health care instead of this medical model where we wait till things get really bad, there's like an injury and then we treat it, into this preventative model where we are prioritizing it, we make it part of our lifestyle, it just becomes a normal everyday practice that we engage in. And one kind of extra thing is that I am Chinese by background and I grew up with this idea of yang san, and in English yang sheng. The idea of yang san is that we take care of our bodies in a holistic sense and we take these preventative measures. I grew up drinking these like herbal soups that my mum would make. We went to acupuncturists, you know, people talking about balancing their qi. My dad gets up every morning and does this like feng shui type thing in the backyard where he's like doing things to his muscles and like swinging around with his arms and stuff. And all over China, you'll see people in parks doing these exercises and breathing. Yongsan becomes part of our daily living. It becomes part of our lifestyle. And I remember growing up, my mum would visit our like herbal medicine man and be buying all these things according to the seasons to like rebalance. In winter when things are cold, you make these hearty soups. If our body is, you call it like heaty, or we call it eat hay in Cantonese. You eat certain things to like cool your body back down. We always just keep trying to find balance. And there's a whole kind of Chinese holistic medicine, which to be honest is not part of my training, and I've been trained under a Western model, but it was actually when I was making this video that I had to think about growing up and my roots and this idea of Yongsan. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone takes a moment to really have a think about how you're approaching your self-care and how you're meeting your own needs. I certainly will be, so that I can, you know, not have things like last week where I miss a video. And I also wanted to start doing a thing where people start posting videos or sharing what you guys do for self-care and actually making that a part of my videos as well. So if you'd like to learn a bit more about that, if you'd like to be in another video, then check out the link in the bio below. I'll explain what the requirements are. Awesome, thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great day. Bye.